Hello, my friends. Thanks once again for joining us right here on Kardec Radio. This is Spiritism, a closer look. And tonight, we are going to take a closer look at what we call the Spiritist ideals. Well, first of all, we have to explain exactly what Spiritist ideals mean. What exactly does it mean? What is this whole thing about? So let's go in parts. An ideal is something that you have as an objective. It clear relates to something that you have in mind, a goal, an objective. It's not the same thing as a lot of people can, probably relate to. It's not the same as presenting the Spiritist principles. No, it's not quite the same thing. Ideal is above the principles. The ideal, for example, Spiritism, the ideal is to have us make us better people. So to make myself, yourself, a better person. That's the ideal. Now, Spiritism is a tool. Within that tool, then we have certain principles. So the ideal is above the principles of Spiritism. What is the ideals of Spiritism? This is what we want to bring tonight for open up for discussion. So it all means to reach a well-defined goal. The ideal focus on the objective, and the principle focus on the basis or how to achieve that. And to get to the goal, we need to understand the ideals. We need to understand what are the goals of Spiritism, which is very simple: moral improvement, make us better people, morally better people. That is the goal. Now, there's a second thing here, which is to make us morally better, we need to have a reference. So we need to have a moral of reference. That moral of reference was brought to us 2,000 years ago by Jesus. Actually, it starts on the first revelation with Moses, and Jesus makes us understand with a little bit more depth. So the goal is moral advancement. And the moral of reference is the one brought to us by Jesus. So when we talk about or when we study the Spiritist ideal, that's what we are looking at. When we are new to Spiritism, for those who are new to Spiritism, as you go along, learning and going to Spiritist centers and so, reading, acquiring some sort of knowledge of some form in Spiritism. So when that happens, as you go along, it takes a little bit of time to quite fully understand what Spiritism is and what Spiritism means. It takes time. A lot of people don't really understand for a while. Some other people, they understand a little faster. Because the thing is, what are we looking for here? What are my expectations? Meaning, what are the ideals? So we divide the study of ideals, Spiritist ideals, in 4 parts, which are the ideal of winning, the ideal of knowing, the ideal of working, and the ideal of love. So let's talk a little bit about each one of these, and then we'll put them all together at the end. So first, the ideal of winning. So winning brings the word competition to the mind, but that's not what it is. Winning here, the ideal of winning means to conquer or maybe even a better word, to gather available resources in our lives to establish our this goal of being a better person. So is to win means to gather all these available resources that we have. However, the purpose of getting all these resources, acquiring them and using them, is not for the self, is not for me. The purpose is mutual support through the interaction, between people and relationships and so on. So we live in society. So, by the way, that's why we live in society. So the interaction between people will make people better. So we need to seek for these resources. That's the winning part. It's not winning, I'm going to be better than you. I'm going to, no, that's not it. We have a collective mind. Let's think about us being a society, not individuals, not, trying to compete. So this gathering of available resources is not moved by personal interests or ambition. It's not moved by competition. It's moved by cooperation, collaboration, the ability to be able to help other people, the ability to together overcome life obstacles together. Now, there's one thing that is very important. All of this is based on righteousness. Because we can win these resources or, just gather available resources, as I said, but with no morality, doing the wrong things. So, very important, all of this has to happen based on righteousness. How do I know if what I'm doing is right? We have to go to the moral of reference, which is the one Jesus brought to us. So that is the first ideal, the ideal of winning, collecting resources to be used and spread throughout the society. Second ideal, the ideal of knowing. So knowledge, improved knowledge, know our culture, know where we are coming from, visit and revisit as many times as needed our history to understand past mistakes, past leaders, why they were good or bad leaders, what their decisions, what was a driving force for their decisions? Was it good? Was it not? So as we go along and study that, we are going to start understanding what was a bad decision so we don't make the same mistake again. So understanding the culture, former members of the society, country, the culture, former members, will make us understand the culture we are inserted in. And all of this knowledge with a purpose. And the purpose is to favor everyone's education. So what I learn by studying and, like I said, visiting history, and so what I learn, I'm supposed to pass on to other people. Not for me, just myself, and I'm gonna, stay with this knowledge all inside here. I'm gonna isolate myself. I'm gonna put a firewall around it so nobody steals my knowledge. It's not even possible, but some people think it. So we're not going to isolate ourselves and avoid sharing the knowledge to claim superiority. That's not why we need to acquire that knowledge. Not simply because the ego needs it. It is necessary to acquire this knowledge. The ideal of knowing has a purpose, which is everybody knows a little bit, everybody gets a little bit of knowledge, and we share all the knowledge that we have collectively. Third ideal, the ideal of working. Well, don't think about work, 9 to 5 work, or your professional life. That's not what it is. The ideal of working means use time and all the possibilities wisely. Using all possibilities is one of the great challenges in our societies because it is a great challenge for each individual. How many times we see ourselves in a situation where we say, well, there's only way to do this thing. And the way that I think it's the only way might not be the only way. Actually, there's never one way only. The thing is, maybe I can't see the other possibilities, but other people can. So we need to use time and the possibilities wisely. What is to use time wisely? We can understand, but what does it mean exactly to use the possibilities wisely? It means somebody else found another way. There's another possibility to do this, to look at the situation, to overcome the circumstance. Let's hear what they say and learn from it. So it makes my life easier. Now, if I take the approach where I don't need your advice because I already know everything, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So the ideal of working has a purpose, which is to serve the community, the society, to help people grow by widening their horizons and ours too, ourselves included. That's the goal, that's the ideal of working. Work towards the community, the collective mind, not towards myself and, to know it all and humiliate people. No, that's not what it is. So that would be the ideal of working. And then the number 4, the ideal of love. As we know, love is food for the soul. Love is food for the soul. It's what makes us, feel good. And that is the most important item in the moral of reference brought to us by Jesus. If you look at the Gospel according to Spiritism, you're going to see a chapter called the Moral Laws. And the most important law is the law of justice, love, and charity. This being one thing, not 3, because we don't have a one word to define all these 3. So we have to use 3 words to define it. And that is the most important law in the moral of reference. So love is food for the soul, as I said, and when I make somebody else happy, that makes me happy. So happiness is a byproduct of making other people happy. You see, it's collective mindset. Jesus said, love your neighbor, right? So when I'm able to make my neighbor happy, automatically I feel happy myself. When we do things, sometimes even non-intentionally, it just happens, sometimes intentionally. When we do things that to help somebody or favor somebody, and they are absolutely, absolutely out of their mind with what you did for them in a good way, it makes us feel very good. It makes us almost like praise the self. It makes us feel good. That's the ideal of love. Loving others to be loved. Loving others to make ourselves lovable. And all with a collective mind. No selfishness. No selfishness. And that reminds me of one of the great stories in the Greek mythology, story of a man called Procrustes. And this guy, he has a house uh, on the way from Athens to another city, and it's a very important street or uh, you know path. And because the distance between the two cities was a long distance, people used to have to sleep somewhere in the middle of the way. So he would offer his house for those, passing by. And he would just say, no, you come in, you can sleep here, and, you go off tomorrow morning, you restart your journey. The problem is nobody ever came out alive because he had, and that's a great teaching, by the way. He had, nobody knew, but he had two beds. One bed was exactly his size. By laying down, it was exactly the length of his body laying down, exactly to the dot. And the other was just a different size. So he would invite people in. People would, stay with him, and so time to sleep, go to bed. He would put the people in the bed that he knew the person was not going to fit to the dot. So when the person would lay in bed, he would do one of these two things. If the person laying down, the body was longer than the bed, he would cut the legs to adjust the length of the body to fit the bed. If the person was shorter in length than the bed, he would just stretch to the max to supposedly have the body be the length of the bed, and the person would just die. So that's why nobody ever came out alive. So this thing runs around, and the people start commenting. Everybody that goes into the house to sleep, they never come out alive. So one guy decides to, and Procrustes, this guy said, I'm all taken care because there's no other possibility. I have all the possibilities in the world, which are one bed is exactly my size, and the other bed is not. So either way, I'm going to be able to kill the visitor. So the story runs around, and then one guy called Theseus, he says, I'm going to challenge this guy and I'm going to kill him in his own bed. And people are like, how can you do this? That's not possible. And Theseus said, watch me do it. So he goes to the house, to Procrustes' house, and says, I want to sleep here tonight. Procrustes is all happy. Oh, one more. So they go in, they prepare for bed, and Theseus says to Procrustes, before you put me in bed, I want to put you in your own bed. And if you don't fit to the dot in your own bed, you're going to die. And Procrustes says, that's absurd. Of course I fit to the dot in my own bed. That's what's been happening all these years. So he takes the challenge. Procrustes says, yeah, go ahead. I'm going to lie down, or you can put me on my bed, and we'll see what happens. So what it does is, here's the bed, right? Instead of putting Procrustes' body like this, he puts like this. So now Procrustes' body doesn't fit to the dot in his own bed. So the head and the legs were cut to fit the bed, and Procrustes dies. So that's the story. What do we take from this story? It's very interesting because it has a lot to do with not being selfish and all of this. You see, we use the term Procrustean solution, for example, Procrustean attitude to refer to things like this. How many times we want to adjust the world to our needs? That's a Procrustean attitude. A simple example, very simple. Let's say that you have to catch a plane, for example, and the plane leaves at 10 a.m. And you don't like the time. That's the ticket you have, for that flight. But you don't like the time, and you say, "Nah, I'm gonna get there. Maybe they'll wait for me at 10:15." So what you're trying to do here, even if you don't do it, even if the outcome is you still go on time, but the fact that you considered something like this, that is a Procrustean solution itself. Another one that is all across the globe, trying to adapt or adjust the laws to your judgment. Will change the law to make me right. This is all over the world. And that happens because we are all spirits in trials and expiations, very imperfect spirits. So adjusting the laws to my judgments or to, make me be in a better situation or circumstances. We try to do the same thing with our belief system. You can't change the belief system to adjust the belief system to match your needs. We can't change Spiritism to match our needs. Spiritism is Spiritism. If it's not good for you, it's not good for you. It's not time for you yet. You need more time to come back to Spiritism and follow it. So all of these things that we do are as if we were creating dogmas. I have the truth, and adjust the law, adjust the belief system, adjust the timing, adjust the weather, adjust every people around me, everything, because I am right, and that's the only possibility. And that makes us suffer because this is a Procrustean solution, a Procrustean attitude. We are not the truth or the center of the universe, like Procrustes thought he would be. Procrustes was a victim of his own creation, of his own thoughts and ignorance of all the possibilities. And it happens to us too. By ignoring other possibilities that I still don't know, shutting down other possibilities, that's going to create a victim. We are going to be victims of ourselves. So when other people say you could do it this way or that way or differently, I don't need your opinion. I don't need your opinion. That's a typical Procrustean attitude. So the Spiritism ideal is the essence of what should be in the center of our lives. So we have, so it's worth living the opportunity that we were given to reincarnate this one more time. So instead of focusing on ourselves, like Procrustes, focus on the collective. Once we understand these Spiritist ideals, we can see that Spiritism gives us a completely different perspective on how to implement these changes in our lives. We improve ourselves with the help of Spiritism if we want. This is free will, but we can improve ourselves by focusing on the collective. So Spiritism is not this shallow group of principles. No, it's a deep and solid, very deep and very solid body of knowledge that invites us for persistent reflections all the time. Every situation that we go by, let me think about this. We will make mistakes. Yes, we make a mistake, then stop and see. Let's rethink this process. Oh, I could have done better. So there will be a next time. There will be a next time. So Spiritism, in this way, it can help us transform ourselves at the core. And what I mean, the core is not the body, the physical, the cells. It helps us transform ourselves in essence, in our moral standards, in our morality. And by the way, morality does not reside in the brain or anywhere in the body. Morality depends solely of the spirit, which is the essence. So there we have it. Win, knowledge, work, and love. Those are the ideals. As long as we associate these ideals with our practical life instead of just theoretical, we're going to be okay. I just want to bring this once again to you. This is a new platform, kardecflix.com. It's a new platform. It came out middle of this year. And as you see here on the description, it's a platform that displays, it's full of Spiritist resources of all types, books and movies and interviews and videos and podcasts, a lot of things. It includes contents for kids and teens. So if you're new to Spiritism, that's a starting point. If you're not new to Spiritism, you're going to be fascinated with how much information you can get out of it. Thank you very much once again for joining us tonight for another edition of Spiritism, A Closer Look. Don't forget, we do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be here next week. I'll see you then.